You know that moment when you open your bank app and everything looks, fine, but you still feel behind? Like you're earning more than you used to, you're saving something, and yet your net worth line isn't sprinting the way you thought it would. And then you spot it, another $12.99, another $19.99, another small charge you didn't even remember signing up for. How is it possible to be doing pretty good and still feel like your money's getting quietly siphoned? Here's the thing. Once you're past the broke phase, the game changes. The biggest threat isn't one giant disaster, it's the slow drip you barely notice. First, we're gonna find where that drip hides. Then, we're gonna plug it without turning your life into a miserable spreadsheet. And finally, we're gonna redirect that money into a system that actually speeds up your wealth instead of just keeping you afloat. Let's make this real with one tiny number. If a harmless $200 a month leak stays in your life, that's $2,400 a year, and you'll barely feel it. But if that same $200 gets invested and earns around 7% a year over 20 years, it turns into roughly $104,000. That's not a typo. One forgettable monthly leak can quietly become 6 figures of future you. And the reason this hurts is because the drain doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up as bad decision in your transactions. It shows up as convenience, upgrades, little rewards, a slightly bigger payment, a slightly nicer habit. And then one day you realize you've been running in place with a nicer outfit on. I'm Andy, and I've watched this happen to people at every income level. They think wealth is mainly about hustle or investing genius. But a lot of the time, wealth is just what's left over after your life stops nibbling at your future. If your money feels like it's slipping through your fingers, it's usually not because you're irresponsible. It's because your default settings are expensive. One super common mistake is going to war with the $5 coffee while ignoring the stuff that actually moves the needle. If you cancel a $5 coffee twice a week, you saved about $40 a month. Cool. But if your car payment is $650, your insurance got quietly bumped, your phone plan is $30 higher than it needs to be, and you're carrying a credit card balance at 20%, the coffee isn't the villain. It's just the most visible thing. Another trap is thinking you'll fix it later, when you have time. But later is where money problems go to retire. The quiet drain thrives on delay because every month it stays, it steals both cash and momentum. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a small crack in the bottom. You can pour faster, but you'll always feel like you're working too hard for the result. So let's stop guessing and start spotting it. You don't need a new budget personality. You need a simple way to catch the leaks, cut the worst ones, and reroute that cash into something that compounds while you sleep. Now, when people hear money drain, they picture subscriptions. And yeah, subscriptions are part of it, but the real culprit is broader. It's payment creep. Anything that turns your life into a stack of monthly obligations is a drag on your wealth because it reduces how much freedom you have to save, invest, or pivot. Think about your monthly life like a base level you've got to fund before you do anything else. Rent or mortgage, car payment, insurance, phone, internet, minimum debt payments, a couple subscriptions, maybe daycare. That base level is what decides whether you're building wealth or just maintaining your lifestyle. Here's a clean benchmark that helps. If your fixed costs are eating more than about 60% of your take-home pay, you're going to feel squeezed even at a good income. If they're closer to 50% or less, you suddenly breathe, and investing stops feeling like a sacrifice and starts feeling like a normal bill you pay to your future. And the sneaky part is fixed costs don't jump all at once. They rise in little sure, why not decisions. A slightly nicer apartment because you deserve it. A slightly nicer car because the payment isn't that much more. A few upgraded plans because the basic version feels annoying. Then you wake up with a life that costs too much to support, so your savings rate stays stuck. This week, pull up the last 90 days of transactions and circle every recurring charge and every payment that happens no matter what. Not the groceries and gas, the stuff that repeats automatically. When you see it in one list, the drain stops being mysterious and starts being obvious. Most people find 3 categories. The first is, I forgot I had this. The second is, I'm overpaying because I never renegotiated. The third is, this payment made sense once, but my life changed and it didn't. let's hit that first category. The forgot subscriptions aren't just Netflix. It's the free trial you never canceled, the app you used for 2 weeks, the gym membership that became a donation. Even $15 here and $25 there adds up fast. 5 forgotten subscriptions at $15. Each is $5 or $75 a month and invested at around the 7% or under for 20 years. That's roughly the $39,000. That's a used car, that's a kitchen remodel, that's breathing room in your 40s. Subscriptions are still the small stuff compared to the second category, overpaying. This is where you're paying loyalty tax, phone plans, internet, insurance, bank fees, even cable bundles you barely use. Companies count on you being busy because busy people don't switch. Here's a number that should annoy you in a useful way. If you knock $80 a month off your phone, internet, and insurance combined, that's $960 a year. Invested at 7% for 25 years, that can become around $250,000. Not because $80 is magic, but because time is. The third category is the one that really slows wealth. Big fixed payments that change the shape of your month. Car payments are the classic example because they sneak in like this. You upgrade from a paid-off car to a $350 Sabra payment. Then later, you upgrade again to a $650 payment. It's only $300 more until you realize $300 a month at 7% over 20 years is about $156,000. That's the difference between I invest when I can and I invest no matter what. And look, I'm not saying you can't have nice things. I'm saying monthly payments are heavy. They're heavy in a way a one-time purchase isn't. For a $1,200 vacation is one shot. A $650 payment is 12 shots a year every year, and it blocks your investing lane. A lot of people get stuck because they focus on being good with money instead of being light with money. Wealth likes lightweight systems, fewer automatic drains, more flexible cash flow, more room to invest consistently. Here's a better approach that works without turning you into a monk. Treat fixed costs like a speed limit. If you keep them under control, everything else gets easier. If you ignore them, you'll always feel like your money's not doing enough. So how do you actually lower fixed costs without burning your life down? You don't slash everything. You pick 1 or 2 big wins that don't mess with your day-to-day happiness. This week, pick one big recurring bill and force it to justify itself. Call your car insurance and ask for a requote. Shop it with 2 competitors, or downgrade your phone plan, or switch internet providers. You're not being cheap, you're firing the loyalty tax. Now let's talk about the quiet drain that doesn't show up as a charge on your statement. Cash drag. Cash drag is when you keep too much money parked in places that barely grow because it feels safe. And sure, safety matters, but there's a difference between an emergency fund and a fear fund. If you've got $50,000 sitting in a low-yield account, earning around 4% while your long-term investments average closer to 8%, that gap can cost you roughly $34,000 over 10 years. Same $50,000, same you, different parking spot. The mistake here is thinking investing means gambling. It doesn't. For long-term money, broad, diversified index funds have historically rewarded patience, and the bigger risk for most people is staying too conservative for too long, because short-term volatility feels scary. A better approach is to separate your money by job. Emergency money has a job, keep you stable. Long-term money has a job, grow. When those jobs get mixed together, you either invest too little or you panic too much. For a lot of people, a solid emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of expenses, not 3 to 6 months of income. Expenses. If your essentials are $4,000 a month, that's $12,000 to $24,000. Once that's in place, extra cash sitting around just in case starts getting expensive. And here's the emotional part. The quiet drain loves when you're tired. When you're tired, you choose convenience. You don't negotiate, you don't compare, you don't automate, and then the drain turns your raises into nothing. Let's hit another common mistake. People celebrate raises by immediately expanding the lifestyle so the savings rate stays the same. It feels like progress because life feels nicer, but wealth doesn't accelerate. It just cruises. Try this mental rule instead. Every time your income goes up, split it. Let your lifestyle rise a little, but send at least half of the raise straight to investing or debt payoff. If you get a $10,000 raise, your take-home might rise by around $600 a month, depending on taxes and benefits. If you invest just $300 of that alone can become roughly $180,000 over 25 years at 7%. You still get to enjoy the raise, but you also lock in future you. Now, I want to bring up a drain that almost never gets talked about in everyday money advice because it's not dramatic. Fees. Fees are quiet. They don't feel like spending, but they're real, and they compound in the wrong direction. If you're investing in something that charges about 1% a year in total fees, and you could have been in a low-cost fund closer to 0.10% or 0.20%, that difference can be brutal over decades. On a $300,000 portfolio, earning 7% versus 6% over 30 years is a gap of about $560,000. $500,000 gone because of a percentage you barely notice. If you've never checked your investment fees, you're not alone. Most people haven't. They assume their money's invested, so it's handled. But handled doesn't always mean optimized. Here's a simple way to think about it. Your wealth grows from 3 engines: how much you earn, how much you keep, what you do with what you keep. The quiet drain attacks the keep part and the do with it part at the same time. And if you're thinking, okay, Andy, so what's the actual move? It's not 1,000 moves. It's a few high leverage ones, done consistently. Let's turn the audit into action. Start with the biggest fixed costs because they're the heavy anchors. Housing and cars are usually the top 2. If you can't or won't change them right now, that's fine. But you've got to be honest about what they're costing you in time. Here's a quick gut check. If your car payment plus insurance is over a 15% rate of your take-home pay, it's probably slowing your wealth more than you think. Not because you're bad, but because that payment shows up every month no matter what the market does, no matter what your job does, no matter what life does. And if you're carrying high-interest debt, that's not a quiet drain. That's a loud one you've gotten used to hearing. A credit card at 20%. Interest is basically the opposite of investing. If your investments might earn 7% long-term and your debt is charging you 20% guaranteed, you're getting dragged backwards. A lot of people try to invest while keeping expensive debt because investing feels like progress. But the math doesn't care about vibes. If you're paying 20% interest, killing that balance is like earning a risk-free 20% return. Now, I'm not saying stop investing entirely if you've got debt. If your employer offers a match in a retirement plan, that's usually free money. A 100% match on the first 3% you contribute is an instant win. But beyond that, high-interest debt usually deserves serious attention. Here's another quiet drain: stopping and starting. People invest for a bit, then pause. They pay extra on debt for a bit, then pause. They try a new strategy, then switch. It feels flexible, but it's expensive because compounding hates interruptions. Think about building wealth like getting a snowball rolling downhill. Starting it is hard. Once it's rolling, your job is mostly to not step in front of it. Every time you stop the roll, you're forcing yourself to restart the hardest part again. So instead of trying to be perfect, aim for a default system that keeps running even when you're busy. That system has 3 pieces: a spending floor, an investing autopilot, and a fee check. Your spending floor is your essentials plus a reasonable life, not deprivation, just a clear, this is the life I'm buying right now. When you don't set that floor, your spending expands to match whatever's in your account, and the drain wins by default. Your investing autopilot is a fixed dollar amount that leaves your checking account automatically right after payday, not after you see what's left, right after payday. Because whatever happens after that, you've already paid your future. And your fee check is a once-a-year look at what you're paying in expenses, fund fees, and weird account charges. Annual, not daily. You don't need to obsess, you just can't ignore it for 10 years. Here's a concrete example because this is where people get motivated. Say you find $300 a month in quiet drain. That might be 2 forgotten subscriptions, a cheaper phone plan, and 1 renegotiated insurance policy. Or it might be a small downgrade in car costs, whatever. If you invest $300 a month at around 7% for 20 years, that's roughly $156,000. At 25 years, it's closer to $244,000. That's not extra, that's life-changing. Now stack that with 1 career move. If you increase your income and invest an extra $500 a month on top, you're talking about something like $400,000 to $500,000 more over a couple decades. This is why the quiet drain matters so much. It steals the cash you'd use to build momentum. One of the best feelings in personal finance is when investing stops feeling heroic and starts feeling normal, like rent, like your phone bill. It just happens. This week, set up an automatic transfer or automatic contribution that moves 1 specific amount into your investing account the day after payday, even if it's $50 to start. The amount matters less than the fact that it runs without permission every month. Now let's talk about how to choose that amount, because guessing leads to quitting. If you're already saving and investing around 10% of your take-home pay, you're doing better than most people. But if you want your wealth to speed up, the next jump is usually getting closer to 15% or 20%, not overnight, over time. Here's what that looks like in numbers. If you invest $750 a month for 20 years at 7%, that's around $391,000. If you invest $2,500 a month, it's around $781,000. Same 20 years, same market, same you. It's the savings rate doing the heavy lifting. That gap is why the quiet drain is such a big deal. It's the difference between being a sometimes investor and being a consistent investor. Now, how do you raise that number without feeling like you're punishing yourself? You don't start by cutting all the fun. You start by reducing commitments. Commitments are the stuff you can't easily undo. Big payments, long contracts, subscriptions you forget, debt minimums. Those are the chains. Fun is flexible. Fun can adjust month to month. If you cut fun first while keeping commitments high, you end up miserable and you still don't build much wealth. That's why so many budgets fail. They try to shrink the flexible stuff while ignoring the fixed stuff. The better approach is to get commitments low enough that you can invest consistently and still enjoy your life. And yes, sometimes that means making one unpopular choice in the short term so you get 10 years of freedom later. That might be keeping the older car longer. Renting a slightly smaller place, saying no to the upgrade that comes with a payment, but you don't need to do all of it. One big win and a couple small ones can change your whole trajectory. Let's get specific about the order of money because order matters. If you've got a workplace retirement plan with a match, grabbing the eye, match is usually step one because it's a massive return. If you're carrying high-interest debt, that's usually the next major target because it's a guaranteed drag. If your emergency fund is thin, building it up prevents panic decisions. Then you keep investing into broad, low-cost options so you're not bleeding fees. Notice what's not in that list. Picking the perfect stock, timing the perfect dip, chasing the new hot thing. Those aren't wealth accelerators for most people. They're stress accelerators. A quiet drain that wrecks people is financial entertainment. Checking apps all day, jumping from strategy to strategy, feeling busy, not getting richer. If you want a simple wealth plan that doesn't require obsession, it looks like this. Low-cost diversified investing, automated contributions, and fixed costs that don't crush your monthly cash flow. And here's the moment. If you're supporting family, dealing with medical bills, or living in a high-cost area, you might need more time and a different pace, and that's still progress. Okay? Let's put the quiet drain under a spotlight with a before and after timeline. Before, you earn more, but your lifestyle absorbs it. Your fixed costs rise, your investing stays flat, you save what's left, which isn't much. Your net worth grows, but it's slow and frustrating. After, you keep fixed costs from expanding, you reroute raises, and you automate investing. Your net worth starts growing in two ways at once, from your contributions and from compounding. That's the rules-changed moment people miss. Early on, discipline matters most. Later, systems matter most. You can't out-hustle a leaky monthly setup. Let's run a realistic example. Say you're 30 with $50,000 invested, and you invest $500 a month. At 7% for 25 years, your monthly contributions alone can grow to around $380,000, and your $50,000 can grow to around $271,000. Put together, that's about $650,000-ish, give or take market returns. Now imagine you plug the quiet drain and invest $1,000 a month instead. That contribution stream becomes roughly $760,000, plus that same $271,000 growth on your starting money. Now you're north of $1 million. Same person, same age, same market assumption, different monthly default. That's why I don't get excited about secret investments. The secret is usually just removing friction from consistent investing. If this is clicking and you want to keep building a wealth system that doesn't require constant willpower, hit subscribe. Now, I want to make sure you don't fall into the other big trap, going too extreme. People hear cut spending and they start cutting the stuff that makes life feel worth living. Then they rebound, binge spend, and feel like they failed. That cycle is brutal, and it's not necessary. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be intentional. The goal is to keep the stuff you genuinely value and kill the stuff you don't even notice. That's why the quiet drain is so maddening. It's mostly money you're spending without getting actual happiness back. So when you're deciding what to cut, don't ask, is this cheap? Ask, would I notice if this disappeared for 30 days? If the answer's no, it's a target. Another great question is, does this purchase reduce my monthly flexibility? One-time purchases sting, but monthly payments trap. If it adds a payment, it deserves extra skepticism. Here's a practical way to protect yourself from payment creep going forward. Make upgrades cash first whenever you can. If you want a nicer couch, save up and buy it. If you want a nicer vacation, plan it and pay for it. But be very careful about turning wants into monthly obligations because that's how you end up working for your lifestyle instead of owning it. Now let's circle back to investing fees for a second because this is where a lot of people get quietly wrecked while thinking they're doing everything right. If you've got funds with expense ratios around 0.80% to 1.50%, that's a red flag to check. Plenty of broad index funds sit around 0.03% to 0.20%. That difference sounds tiny until it meets 30 years. And it's not just funds, it's account fees, advisor fees, management fees you didn't realize you were paying, and high-fee insurance products pitched as investments. You don't need to memorize everything, you just need to look. If you have a brokerage or retirement account, you can usually find a section that lists expense ratios and fees. If you don't understand what you're seeing, that's normal, but the number is still real. Here's the mindset shift. You're not hunting pennies, you're defending your compounding. Compounding is the engine. Fees are sand in the engine. Subscriptions are sand. Payment creep is sand. Keeping too much cash long-term is sand. None of it kills you instantly, it just keeps you from speeding up. So what does a clean, low-drain setup look like? It looks like a monthly life where fixed costs are reasonable, consumer debt is controlled or gone, your emergency fund is set, and a consistent amount gets invested automatically into low-cost, diversified funds. It looks boring, that's why it works. And if you're waiting for motivation, here's a better deal. Build the system so you don't need motivation. The quiet drain wins when your plan depends on you feeling disciplined every month. Let's do a quick gut check audit you can keep in your head. If your monthly fixed costs plus minimum debt payments leave you with less than 20% of your take-home pay to save and invest, wealth is going to feel slow, not impossible, slow. If you can get that leftover to 20% or more, wealth starts to feel like it's actually moving. And if you can push it higher during your peak earning years, that's where things get interesting. Also, don't underestimate how powerful it is to stop upgrading everything at the same time. People upgrade the apartment, the car, the wardrobe, the vacations, and the gadgets within a couple years of earning more. It's like giving lifestyle creep a blank check. Try spacing upgrades out. Pick one area you care about and keep the rest calm. That one move alone can protect your savings rate. Now, if you've been feeling stuck, here's what I want you to internalize. You don't need a bigger income to start winning. You need a cleaner monthly structure. Bigger income helps, but a messy structure will eat it. And the clean structure starts by seeing the quiet drain for what it is. Money leaving your future without buying you real joy today. So, take a breath. This isn't about guilt. It's about control. When you reduce payment creep, you create margin. Margin creates consistency. Consistency creates compounding. Compounding creates options. Options are the real prize, not the number in the account, but what that number lets you do. The ability to walk away from a job you hate, the ability to handle a crisis without panic, the ability to buy time. If you do nothing else, remember this: you don't get wealthy by doing 1,000 clever things. You get wealthy by removing the few quiet drains that keep you from doing the simple things consistently. So here's your wrap-up in plain English. If your money feels stuck, it's probably not because you're bad with money. It's probably because your monthly obligations grew faster than you're investing. Find the recurring leaks, cut the loyalty tax, stop turning wants into payments, keep a right-sized emergency fund, and invest automatically into low-cost options so time can actually work for you. You're not behind because you're lazy. You're behind because nobody taught you to defend your monthly cash flow like it's the foundation of wealth, because it is. Keep it simple, keep it consistent, and let the math do its job. If you want more videos like this that focus on what actually moves the needle, subscribe.